Hello. Now, this is a video that no one asked for except for my mom. Shout out to mama. And I should start by saying I do not know what I'm doing. I am just a girl with a lot of books to read and a camera, so whatever you make out of it. I am no expert, and this is going to be a fall TBR, or at least books that I expect to read during fall, which is not really fall over here since it's like almost 40 degrees, but it's the thought that counts. So the first book we have is Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correct. Everyone knows Phantom of the Opera by its theater version, but the story basically follows a deformed musical genius who lives under the Paris Opera House, and he becomes obsessed with Christine, a young soprano. He then lures her in to become his protege. He also causes some strange events to happen at the opera, which makes people believe it is so-called haunted, and he gets known as the opera ghost. So the novel follows the identity of the phantom as well as his tragic love for Christine, which is a perfect read for, spooky vibes and love. So the next book we have is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which is actually a reread since I cannot get enough of this book. It has the perfect amount of romance, it has forbidden love, it has age gap, it has everything I would want in a novel. And it's the perfect book for fall, or any season as a matter of fact. It is one of the first classics I ever read, and I have fell in love since. I have reread it multiple times. I have multiple copies of this book, which is a problem if you ask me. So the story follows Jane and is written by Jane's perspective, who is described as a simple, ordinary girl, and she grows up getting treated really badly by her aunts and her cousins. Kind of like Cinderella, but it's her aunts and her cousins. Anyways, she gets sent to a boarding school where she gets treated even worse. And only when she gets a job as a governess to a French kid named Adele at Thornfield Hall that her life, calms down. But it is then turned upside down when she meets Mr. Rochester, who is a wealthy but troubled man. I suck at describing stuff, but you should read this. You should really read this. The next book we have is a very popular one. If you have not heard about this book, you're probably living under a rock, since it is one of the most popular books on Book Talk. It is Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and I was procrastinating into reading this book, into starting it. But once I did start it, I'm like 50 pages in, and I love it. I'm in love with it. I want the second book, I want the third book. It is amazing. And if I had to choose one word to describe this book, I would say colorful. Now you would be like, Sharmeen, how the fuck do you describe a book as colorful? Well, everything described in it is colorful. Like, let's take an example. The urgent red of burning coals, the frenzied yellow of a flapping bird's feather, the eager green of new grass buds. Do you get what I'm trying to do? Like, it's all colors. The descriptions, everything is written with colors. Like, as cool and seductive as a slice of shade in the hot season. This book is amazing. It follows two sisters, Scarlett and Tella, who escape their abusive father to enter the game of Caraval, where nothing is as it seems. Now, Caraval is a show that happens only once a year, where the audience participates in the show. The stakes are very high and the consequences are real. Everything you have heard about this book does not compare to the actual book. You need to read it. I did that. Okay, we have the next book. It is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Now, I actually do not know how to describe this book other than saying pedophilia. It is, I believe, based off of an actual case of a little girl named Sally Horner, And since I do not know how to describe it, we will read the back of it. Poet and pervert Humbert becomes obsessed by 12-year-old Lolita and seeks to possess her, first carnally and then artistically out of love to fix once for all the perilous magic of nymphets. This education is one of many dimensions in which Nabokov's dizzying masterpiece, which is suffused with savage humor and rich elaborate verbal textures. Okay. Obviously, we cannot make a spooky season TBR list without adding Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It is a gothic horror and science fiction novel. It follows Victor Frankenstein, who decides to make an artificial man by taking different parts of corpses and stitching them together, actually taking the best part out of those corpses and stitching them together into a man, into a creature. And that creature is alive and now a violent person after getting rejected by society, since, well, he's not really that pleasant looking. He's literally stitched together. And for me personally, it shows how us humans desire to have a connection and to have a community. It's a must read for fall. The next book we have is Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. And I just know I'm not pronouncing any names correctly this video, but bear with me. And this book is based in Japan in the 60s. We follow Toru, who finds himself in a tragic situation after his best friend dies. And he then goes on to build a relationship with his best friend's girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend now since he's dead. I should not be smiling at that. This is the type of book that makes you want to remember your youth, which is kind of ironic because I am in my youth. And he meets many new people. It has amazing songs in it, and it looks like a cozy read. Well, at least I hope it is, because I picked it out. So I did pick out a small book to help me achieve the final goal of the amount of books I read at the end of the year, in case I do end up getting stuck on one of the books I plan on reading. This is By the River Piedra, I Sat Down and Wept by Paulo Coelho, who is also the author of The Alchemist. This is a short read, 180 pages, and it is about two young lovers who reunite after 11 years. It is described as a richly poetic story that reflects the depth of love and life. So there's that. So the next book I actually do not have the physical copy of, but it is called Even If We Break by Marieke Nijkamp. I am not saying that right at all, but it is a young adult mystery thriller that follows a group of friends who reunite at a cabin in the mountains. They play a game over the weekend and are tied by the game, but the deadly weekend will force them to tear apart. And I feel like by the synopsis of this book, it would be amazing for the fans of Five Survive by Holly Jackson or One of Us is Lying series by Karen McManus. And yeah, that's about it for the video. I actually do have more books, but if I start saying all of them, it will turn into a very long video, and I do not want that to happen. Okay, that's about it. Now, I would suggest anyone who would buy these books to search up the content warnings and to search up the synopsis and read it once on your own to decide if you actually want to go ahead with them. Right, I do write. Ooh, that sounded. Ooh, right, I do write. Like, as in, like, R-I-G-H-T. I do W-R-I-T-E. Like, write as in. Okay, that is not funny. I do write, and you can actually see snippets of those writings on my Instagram, or learn more about it on my TikTok, where I post, well, some stuff about it. Or if you actually want to read it, I do have an ongoing book with the Wattpad Creators Program, and it is a rom-com between Louis and Maya, reverse Grumpy X Sunshine situation going on. I suck at explaining my own books, but if you like romantic comedies, Grumpy X Sunshine, multiple POVs, and different couples, you will enjoy it. So give it a chance. Bye bye.